You're listening to the TV Obsessive channel, presented by TVObsessive.com. Okay, welcome back to the TV Obsessive podcast, episode 15 we're on. I'm Cameron Crane, the executive editor for TVObsessive.com. And I'm joined as always by Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor for the site. How are you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing great. Good day here where I am. Ready to get into some really fun things today. I noticed you got a little arts on your shirt there. If you want to take care of that before we get started.
Oh, man. Okay. Oh, man. Poor arts.
Or arts.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Lost. We've decided here that for the next couple months, I guess, we're going to run through standout episodes that each of us choose. We're going to go back and forth. We're each choosing 4. So we're go ahead and call it the Mount Rushmore. We're each choosing Mount Rushmore. If you want to choose, I don't know. Right. I mean, if I seem to be resisting, part of me just feels like it puts too much pressure on it.
I mean, we're etching it in stone for all time that these are our favorite episodes, right? That's what I'm doing. Is that what you're planning to do?
Right. Yeah. Like, well, I can't, the thing is, I can't help myself because I find myself also thinking, well, how's this going to go on the podcast? Are we going to have enough to talk about? I'm like thinking about all these practical matters, and I'm not just thinking about these are the 4 best episodes ever. So I guess I'm saying that to everyone. I have already decided to let everyone know. I know that Ryan has not seen Twin Peaks. I'm not going to make him watch part 8 of Twin Peaks: The Return without context. I thought about it. But just to note that while that might be in my pantheon of greatest episodes ever, we're not going to do that one. I've already decided we're not going to do that one.
Oh man. Okay. Well, you would have had some fun with that. I would have been completely lost, I'm sure, but we'll go with what you want.
I mean, if you want to do it, we can do it. I just
I mean, I'm just saying I'm up for the challenge. When we get to there, you can, guide some sort of blind and lame person through the story if you're willing to do it.
I mean, well, okay, I'll think about it to let everyone know. I haven't actually picked all 4 of mine yet. I did pick the one that we're going to do next week, which, well, hold off. We'll let you know what that is at the end of the podcast. This week, we're going to do Lost. This is Ryan's choice. And he has cheated and chose an episode that actually has 3 parts, but I guess that counts as one episode, I suppose. Fine. So this is the season 1 finale of Lost, which is called Exodus. And it is 3 parts. And so we rewatched that. I rewatched that the other day. And knows we've both seen all of Lost before. So yeah, I mean, I guess people should be aware that not only are there going to be spoilers for, season 1 of Lost, but potentially the entirety of Lost. We've both seen the whole thing. So that's the plan for the latter part of the pod today. First, as always, we're going to talk about some industry news and notes, perhaps chat a bit about what we've been watching lately in a spoiler-free sort of way. So I guess we can get into that. It's September 26th. What's in the news, Ryan?
Well, we finally have some fantastic long-awaited news. We got notice, I guess, Sunday night that the executive committee of the Writers Guild has come to an agreement with the AMPTP. They have yet to ratify this and vote on it as of the time we're recording this here on Tuesday afternoon. But all indications are this agreement is going to go through, and things will be able to start moving, at least in terms of a writing perspective. So now I guess we have to see what the details end up being for this and how quickly the Screen Actors Guild can get back to the table.
Right. Yeah. So there no details have been really given in terms of what the I guess it's still technically tentative because the members of the guild have to ratify it.
Yes.
Right. So maybe we won't get all the details until after that. And it sounds like that might take up to a couple of weeks. And right now, they're saying to the writers, that they aren't allowed to go back to work yet. The strike's still technically not over until it's ratified. But also, I mean, it'd be shocking if they didn't ratify it. The message
Yeah.
from the negotiating committee was like, we got a good deal. And if you go back and look at their message to the writers in 2008, their message was something, I read this, and their message was something like, well, you might be a little unhappy, but we did our best, Whereas with this one, their message really was like, this is a historic deal that serves all members, and it's so.
Yeah, I found it
Yeah,
funny. This whole stuff came out Saturday night of the AMPTP had said, we have given them our best and final offer, right? Just sort of classic negotiating 101, doing it out in public, where normally when that happens, you think, okay, well, they're just trying to push some movement here, and that's not really their best and final offer. But maybe this is the rare outlier where it was a tremendous offer that had not been put in front of them before, because it spurred some movement to agreement on Sunday. And as you said, the strike is technically not over, but they have been told to stop picketing.
yeah, they're not picketing. I mean, they might be picketing in solidarity with SAG-AFTRA, but they're not
Yes.
picketing on the behalf of the WGA.
Right.
I still don't know about that best and final offer business.
Yeah.
I don't think that helped personally. And the rhetoric of it just felt so weird, because it seemed like the
Yeah.
reaction I saw overwhelmingly on social media from writers and people in solidarity with writers was like a middle finger. Like, what do you mean your best and final offer? So I don't know why I did. It's just, part of me feels like there've been a number of things where the AMPTP just feels kind of out of touch or maladapted to the era we're actually living in.
Yeah.
And I wonder how it'll go with the actors. Now, the actors have also, I guess, very, very recently, authorized a strike against video game manufacturers. So we'll see. This would be, for voice actors in video games, and well, I guess also maybe their likeness. I don't know. I don't know those details, but I saw that. That's pretty recent. But anyway, looks like the writer's strike is coming to an end. Drew Barrymore's show is going to come back on the air.
Yeah.
Bill Maher, I'm sure, is champing at the bit. Dancing with the Stars. And this is funny. We mentioned that, I think, last week, and then I read
Yeah.
after that was actually a WGA show. They were going to picket that show.
That's exactly right. And they
So,
did, I think, for a couple of days.
yeah, maybe, but it hasn't actually premiered yet. The season hasn't
Exactly.
premiered, so
Exactly.
maybe
Yeah.
it's that.
They were picking the rehearsals.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize. I think we mentioned it, and then later I saw, oh wait, they had, I don't know, they employ writers. I guess they employ writers who are in the WGA, or at least one. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what they do, but
And we sort of cynically wondered if Barrymore and Marr and all these people who had talk shows that agreed to stay on hiatus were doing this because they were getting a signal that things were about to be over. But we'll just give everybody the benefit of the doubt at this point.
yeah, we don't know. And I mean, if they
Yeah.
did get that kind of signal, I guess fine. Like,
Yeah.
overall, I'm not really fine with them saying they were going to bring their shows back, but I'm ultimately personally pretty fine with them saying, oh, in light of the pushback, we're not going to do it. And whatever the details were, if it was someone whispering in their ears, we're close, please hold out,
Yeah.
or if it was everyone on the internet hates you, Drew Barrymore, and she's legitimately crying, whatever it was, that they ultimately pulled it back. But now, now sort of no problem. Now, of course, SAG-AFTRA is still on strike. That does still mean that they can't promote struck work and all of that. And we'll see, there really hasn't been negotiating that's gone on, I think, since they went on
Yeah.
strike in July. Does the agreement with the WGA provide a workable framework? Of course, the actors have some issues that are specific to them, particularly some of the stuff about, like, can you scan background actors, and AI generate their likeness in perpetuity
Mm.
and things like that. At least that sticks out in my mind. As like an important sticking point potentially, besides the money of all of it. So we'll see. But man, I do hope that that moves quickly and we can sort of get back on track.
Yeah, I'm with you. We've gotten some signals that a WGA agreement would spark further, more intense negotiations for SAG and sort of some quicker movement. We'll see, but we'll see.
Yeah, we have no idea. We have no idea more than anyone listening. So, yeah. Another front related to the industry stuff. Did you see this? That Amazon is saying they're going to put ads on Prime Video next year.
Yeah, and so this is a different context than their. Is it that they have Freevee, right? So that this is a
Yeah,
different situation than that channel, I guess.
right. The deal with Freevee is what they call a fast
Mm-hmm.
service, and that is free ad supported television. I think that's what fast stands for. Anyway,
That's right.
it's or streaming, whatever. But yeah, so it's very odd to me that they're gonna be like, well, no, Prime, it's like our premium service, also gonna have ads now. Um, they're kind of promising that they won't be too long or something. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
like this. If you pay $3 more a month, you can get an ad-free version, I guess, is what they're
Mm-hmm.
saying. I don't know,
Yeah, you,
man.
you you buy the premium TV version, plus do Prime to get free shipping from all your stuff, plus do Prime Music, then you'll get, I don't know. This is just more of a ploy for them to get you to buy into every aspect of their consumer product. So, yeah, this is, I mean, mildly disappointing. We've seen Netflix and others come out with these similar messages, but this was sort of some finality. It looks like it's coming fairly soon.
Yeah. What worries me about it personally, as someone who cut the proverbial cord in 2010,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I am so spoiled. I cannot watch commercials. Like I'm sitting there trying to watch Monday Night Football, and the commercials come on, and like I stop paying attention, and I forget to start paying attention again when the game comes back on. I can't do it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So like I'm either going to pay Prime $3 more a month, or I'm going to cancel it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
I will say, so, I wrote about this and we've talked about it a little bit. The show Jury Duty came out earlier this year. That was a freebie. That was a freebie exclusive television show. And while I loved it, it was very distracting because you had these unavoidable, can't fast forward it, right in the middle, 2.5 minute long Amazon ads that popped up for whatever it was that they were, that they're promoting, that just took me out of it, and I just was not, as you said, not accustomed to that with my streaming these days.
yeah, I'm totally spoiled, and I'm worried. Here's what's worries me, because potentially I will just pony up the money, like I
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
I pay for ad-free Hulu, for example,
yep.
but um, I don't know if it'll be good enough. I'm afraid there's going to be a slow creep back to everything having ads, you know,
Yes,
because there was a time when cable television came out, as I
that's right.
understand it, when we were very, very young. When I understand it, at first they were like, well, but it's cable, it's a subscription service. Surely people will not put up with advertisements.
Right.
And I mean, let's try it. The people did. My only hope is pinned on the fact they disrupted things enough with people, like me, perhaps like you, or we're spoiled now. We don't want to go back to having our viewing experience interrupted with commercials, and we'll see. But I'm a little
Yeah.
bit disappointed that they're gonna throw some ads on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, eventually every one of them will do this. They'll all say for only a few bucks you can get the ad-free version. That'll just further make a dent in our pocketbooks that were once meant to,
Yeah,
to save us money when we cut the cord, but it just doesn't do that anymore.
I wonder, because I feel like at this point Apple TV Plus might be the only one not doing this.
Agreed. Yeah.
And they're a weird outlier in the industry because they're like a little side gig for Apple, you know.
Exactly.
So I wonder, and I think their price is still pretty low too.
It's the lowest
Um,
amongst all the streamers right now. Yep.
yeah, so I wonder if Apple is sitting over there going like, we won't do this, like just cause, we just want to keep our thing. Anyhow, speaking of streaming, I was pointing out to you, Moonlighting
Yeah.
is coming to Hulu next month on October 10th, I guess. Which I mean, so you were telling me what did you watch a show at all when you were kids? I mean, do you have memories of the show at least?
Well, I watched it because it was something that my mom had to watch every week, right? So that's my exposure to this show. And I had to confirm with you, this is the Bruce Willis Civil Shepherd. They're what, private investigators or something that have sort of this love-hate relationship. Am I right on any of these details?
Yeah. Dude, I don't remember very well at all. This is something literally, this was on, we were children
I
in
thought
the
you were a
80s.
moonlighting scholar. I guess not.
No, but the thing is, it's hasn't been available to stream anywhere ever.
Yeah.
There have been all kinds of things about the rights, and often this is hung up on the music. I don't know, people always know, right, that there are issues with the licensing of the music in some of these older TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's one of, I mean, this is like a very highly acclaimed show in the history of television. And I
Yeah.
will tell you, there have been times over the years when I've thought, you know what, I should really watch Moonlighting. And then kind of felt like, oh, well, you can't. You can't. I mean, I'm sure you could find it somehow, somewhere, but to
Yeah.
easily watch it, it's coming to Hulu. So we'll see. Definitely a critically acclaimed and historically significant show. I mean, I think Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd, when I was about to say they were like the first will they won't they, but that can't be right.
I mean, I don't think it was their first role, but I do know this for a fact. I've seen this several places. The only real thing I know about moonlighting is after several people turned down the starring role in Die Hard, they turned their sights to Bruce Willis, and everybody involved with the movie said, "No way, we can't get the guy from Moonlighting to star in our action movie. Nobody will buy it."
Right, because this is a dramedy. This
Yeah,
is Bruce Willis before he ever became an action star, precisely
right.
to the point of your anecdote. So I don't know. Check out Moonlighting. Probably be checking out Moonlighting. Hey, who knows? 3 weeks from now, I might be coming down here going, Ryan, Moonlighting is great. What are we doing?
I look
Uh,
forward to that day.
we mentioned the upcoming Nathan Fielder, Emma Stone project called The Curse. This is the HGTV parody thing that got a release date, I guess, November 10th. So I'm looking forward to that. I plan to watch that.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I'll check this out sort of in this little bit of a dead zone we're going to have in these next 6 weeks or so. So be before Fargo comes out, before several things comes out. So if it's after Nathan Fielder's latest project, I think I'll certainly give this at least a glance or two to see just to see what it's like, particularly as
for
someone
sure.
who's tried to be a weekend warrior on some home stuff before. I'd love to see sort of where he's going with this.
Yeah, for sure. We've talked about the rehearsal briefly on here
Yeah.
even. And I mean, yeah, I'm totally with you. Given what just happened with the rehearsal, I have to see what this is. You know what I mean? Like you can read the description, and
Yeah.
I still don't feel like it's telling me what it really is. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Nor will he probably, nor will he. But
well, I don't. Maybe you can't.
yeah,
It's. I guess it's scripted, but it's a weird parody of reality TV. But I what are we doing? I was
yeah,
going through. I
yeah.
was like, what is the show? Because like, did you know what the rehearsal was before you watched it? Could you
Ab-
have known?
Absolutely
You
not.
know what I mean? Like there
Absolutely
was
not.
no way to know how crazy that show was going to be. Really.
I know. I know.
Um,
Well, speaking of parodies of reality, you and I just spent 7 weeks talking about Winning Time that finished up a week and a half or so ago, and there's a new Magic Johnson interview in Hollywood Reporter where he says he, quote, never watched Winning Time. None of us watched it. I guess he means his teammates because it was fictional. You just can't tell that story. But hey, that's on them, talking about the creators of Winning Time. So surprising to you, we know that this has gotten some criticism from Jerry West and other people. We know that Jeannie Buss and others had said, "Oh, this is a pretty accurate representation." Is this surprising that none of the Lakers ever watched this show?
I don't know if it's exactly surprising to me. What I do want to say, with all due respect to the great Magic Johnson, this phrase, "you can't tell that story," I do not respect.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. None of us watched it because you can't tell that story. How do you know? You
Yeah.
didn't watch it.
What defines a story that you can tell? That's what I'm curious about.
You know what I mean? I don't. I mean, I guess I get what he's saying here, but I just don't. I think he was supportive of it at the beginning, and then something turned him off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that it's. I think what he's really saying is that the sense that they got of what this show was doing,
Yeah.
they didn't appreciate, so they didn't really watch it. I'd love to hear from Jerry West again, because
Yep.
part of me
Yep.
has a sneaking suspicion that Jerry West stopped railing against the show because he kept watching it and started thinking, yeah, maybe this is all right. I don't know. I'm totally speculating there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that as a viewer of Winning Time, I thought Jerry West's character was very sympathetic.
Yep.
I mean, he was ultimately really one of my favorite characters on the show, you know. And I think the thing that Jerry West was threatening to sue over was very early on, where he's like trashing the office or whatever.
Yeah.
So I wonder. It's probably, I guess, either that or Jerry West instead thought, no, I do hate this show, but railing against it's giving it more publicity, so I'm just going to stop. Because he couldn't have won a lawsuit. There was no chance he could have won a lawsuit.
Exactly. I just think part of it has to be, particularly for Magic Johnson. Sure, were there a lot of fictional aspects to what they represented? Absolutely, but you just can't tell that story. Again, I think this probably represented a time of his life and some moments in his life that he and his wife of so many years probably did not want to really revisit. And sure, all that stuff is kind of out in the open, but to put it out there so publicly for people to be able to watch probably represented things in not the most accurate way, but it's just something that they didn't want, or they didn't care to have that part of the story told. So he's got his opinions, sure, but to say that you can't tell the story, I mean, I just don't know what you do with a statement like that.
No, yeah. Again, it's just one of these. I didn't watch it because you can't tell that story. And I hate the prejudgment aspect of it. If he said, hey, yeah, I gave it a shot and they're totally misrepresenting me and what happened, and I hate that show, and it's, like, I'd respect that more. But the idea that you never watched it at all, I don't know, it's kind of a bummer. On the other hand, Jeannie Buss got into it, and there's no way they're gonna make more of that show. Is there?
No, I don't think so.
We're totally hopeless. We're like, I joked about it last week, but I seriously do fear that they are not only going to not make more of the show, but that at some point they're going to remove it from Max. That's what I'm afraid of. They're going to be like, it's canceled, or taking it down. We're going to, throw it in this bin over here with Raised by Wolves. See you later.
I mean, you do think about a show like Westworld that had so many viewers and so much hype at the beginning, relative to HBO, I should say, and then just fizzled out completely. And now, they've completely, or are planning to remove that from their service. It wouldn't surprise me if it fell in that bin.
No, yeah, I'm pretty sure they did remove Westworld. This was like 9 months ago or something.
Yeah.
And but they haven't kicked anything fully to the void, I don't think. It's gone to fast and stuff like that. But anyhow, let's move forward. What have you been watching? Anything?
It's same old for me. I've got 2 weeks left of Ahsoka, which I'm writing on for the site, which I will finish up 2 more episodes before switching over to the next Disney Plus entry with Loki, which I'll also write on for tvobsessive.com. So finishing somewhat strong there. So that's been a positive thing after I think a shaky beginning. Still plowing through the second season of Welcome to Wrexham. And then part of the reason why I chose the episode we're doing today is because I'm in the middle of season 5 and my latest, I think it's my third Lost rewatch. So those are things taking up my time right now. How about you?
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, well, so I'm still writing on Invasion. I don't have much to say about that. Still writing on the Changeling week to week, which has grabbed me more. I told you I'd keep you posted on this.
Yes, I do want to know about this.
This most recent episode of the Changeling, it's kind of got its hooks in me now. It took 5 episodes, but so it goes, I guess, and I'm kind of excited to see how that wraps up. It's 8 episodes in that season, probably series. I think it's going to be a mini series adapting the book, right? But one never knows. Sometimes when things do well, they say, "Hey, you know what? Wasn't actually a limited series." Let's another thing on my radar. Do you watch Doctor Who? You ever get into Doctor Who?
So this is on my never seen list. I have to admit, I know this is what going on. This is like a 60th anniversary or something of that show coming up.
Yeah, the 60th anniversary is coming up in November, and they released a trailer the other day.
Okay.
And I won't say much more about it since you haven't, but maybe you've already encountered this. This is known. This can't be a spoiler. It's in the trailer, right? That they're bringing David Tennant back.
I have enough familiarity with Doctor Who to understand what's going on and what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I honestly don't know exactly how I feel about this, but maybe I'll just leave it there, because you haven't seen the previous story with Donna Noble, and now they're
I have not seen 1 second of Doctor Who in my life.
All right, well, it might go on the list. The Doctor Who episode might go on the list. There's one in contention. There's one in contention for me right now.
I have no doubt.
I'm just, I'm trying not to give you entirely things you haven't seen, but 3 out of 4 might be. I'm sorry. All right then. Well, I guess we should seg here, and we're going to get into Lost.
Yeah.
Again, this is the season 1 finale, episodes 23, 24, and 25. Exodus, part 1, part 2, part 3. I will say, in rewatching this, it went really fast. So
yes,
that's one thing that's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's movie length, but it flies through these three segments.
But so as per usual, we'll take a little break here, and big banner spoiler warning that on the other side of the break, all of Lost is on the table for potential spoilers, in particular the season 1 finale, but who knows what might happen. We might tell you how Lost ends. So okay, we'll take 10 seconds here and pick up Lost on the other side.
Okay, welcome back. We are going to dive into Lost season 1, episode technically 23, although it could be called episode 23, 24, and 25, entitled Exodus. 3 parts to this finale to the first season of Lost that debuted in 2004. So once again, we'll discuss this episode heavily and extensively, but could deviate into spoilers for the entire series. So that we provide that warning one more time. And I always provide that warning, but with the sense that I tell people, this is the one show I tell people if they have not seen that they must go see it. This is my favorite show of all time, why I chose an episode of this show to go first in our back and forth here on our favorite TV episodes. So I'm looking forward to talking about it with you. Caemeron, I'll give us a little synopsis here, and then we'll start digging into some of the moments, some of the themes, and some of our history with Lost. So in this episode, we have, of course, in the first season of Lost, been following the adventures of the 40 or so people that have crashed that were on Oceanic Flight 15 and sort of the mysterious circumstances that are on this island, the other people or the other entities that might be on this island. And as we approach the finale, something interesting happens, which is there is a crew of people trying to build a boat to seek some rescue. And there is another inhabitant of the islands named Danielle Rousseau, who's been there for 16 years. She shows up to our group of survivors and says that the others, this mysterious group of people on the island, are coming. And so that what it does is prompt sort of three main storylines to go throughout this finale trilogy of episodes. The first is Michael, Jen, Sawyer, and Walt sort of speed up the process of building the raft so that they can get it launched, so they can go out and look for rescue. And there are certainly dangerous and mysterious things that happen as they're on the water. Jack, Locke, Kate, Hurley, and our friend Arts go in search of some dynamite on the black rock that Danielle, this inhabitant of the island, knows about, so that they can blow open the door to the hatch to try to find safety from the others. And then Saeed, Charlie, Claire, Shannon, baby Aaron, and Vincent, the dog, make their way out to the caves. But in the process of that, Rousseau steals Claire's baby, as we find out she's going to hopefully make a trade with the others for her own child who was stolen 16 years ago. Saeed and Charlie go in pursuit, save Aaron, and reunite Claire with her baby. So that doesn't sort of ruin the end of any of these three stories, but this was, again, powerful finale, powerful storylines here, lots of emotion wrapped into this, particularly as we go back and forth between these stories and the flashbacks. What's your history with Lost, Cameron? Did you watch it in real time? When did you come to see it? How many times have you watched it? Sort of what's your background with the show?
Okay, yeah, we can start there. Yeah, so first of all, I watched it in real time. I mean, not from the very beginning. I remember I rented a DVD set of the first season. And then I think started watching subsequent seasons as they aired, or maybe it was a couple seasons were already out, and then I got on board watch. Anyway, by the time it ended, I was watching it in real time. Prior to the final season, I rewatched all of the previous seasons. And then in the week before the finale of the show, I think I rewatched everything in the final season. So I think what I'm trying to say is I think I watched it twice by the time it was over. Yeah. Like by the date of the finale. Basically. And then was a bit disappointed with the finale at first, like many were, but I came around on it the more I thought about it. And I rewatched the entire show in 2020. I wrote an article on the site on season 2, and a couple of episodes, like I forget whatever happened. I know I wrote on that one. And anyway, I came around to being fully on board. And also, I guess I think there is an article on the site that's like my retroactive coming to terms with the ending.
I see. Yeah.
So kind of a complex history, but in particular, rewatching the show a couple of years ago, and then also rewatching these episodes the other day, I've really, really fully come around to just wanting to say Lost is one of the greatest shows ever. If you don't like how it ends, I feel you to some degree, but increasingly I'm fine with it. And I'm not to like constantly plug articles on the site too much, but there is one written by Hannah Searson that is about the sentimentality in Lost, and she argues that the sentimentality of Lost is the point. And I love that article. Like that's the one that I'd actually want to point to people to at this point in terms of forgiving Lost if you were unhappy with the ending, because Hannah's whole argument basically is Lost is about the characters, and what do you get in the finale is immense catharsis on the character front, And so if you have quibbles about the plot logic or whatever, increasingly I think that that's not entirely the point. But those are some
Yeah,
kind of broad thoughts. I mean,
my experience is actually somewhat similar, actually very similar to that. In the fall of 2005, this would have been before season 2 started. Was living in Houston at the time, and was married, pre-kids. And this was when September of 2005 is when Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast. And this was not something that ended up impacting Houston in a great deal, but this was sort of what became nationally known as sort of this great migration out of town that caused so much trouble. So many people got stuck on the roads. People died in car fires. I mean, it just was this horrific thing as everybody tried to leave town. My wife and I, who live in the south part of town, drove 15 hours and made it 30 miles north to the north side of Houston. And we eventually decided we just couldn't go anymore. We weren't going to try and evacuate any farther. We knew that my brother's wife's parents lived nearby, so we pulled off the road, headed to their house, as did a group of friends that were sort of carpooling with us. And somebody brought the DVDs to season 1 of Lost. I'd not seen it before, so we spent sort of this hunkering down, waiting for a hurricane to come, watching the first season of this show. And it was just the same thing, that there were people that we shared it with. There was catharsis happening in sort of our real lives that made us connect more to the characters being sort of driven through these episodes. And some of those same people became the people that we watched Lost with every week from then until the finale. And it just became, this emotional connection, not only with the characters of the show, but the characters of people that we watched it with. And just has impacted me a lot since then. Is my all-time favorite show. I was between this episode, the pilot, and Through the Looking Glass for my favorite episodes of the series. Picked this one because of a number of emotional beats and things we'll talk about. But yeah, this is a show that makes you think not only about yourself and the people you're close to, but also how you connect with these characters and what they mean. So it just has a lot of layers there, I think, that you and I both seem to have connected on.
yeah, absolutely. And it was one of my first experiences of having, in the internet age, so much conversation around the show week to week. And there was so much here to dig into and talk about. And I guess that's the thing. To some degree, we got caught up in the questions and mystery to such an extent.
Yeah.
Particularly on a rewatch, I found myself saying, man, the character drama is just so good. The flashback structure, you're learning about these people, and the differences between how they are on the island and what you're seeing of them in the past here at the beginning, and then of course that shifts ultimately, and so on. We should move towards digging into this episode more specifically, and instead of talking about
I agree with you completely on all of that. Well, one of the things about this episode that, Lost was known as a show that focused a lot, you just said this, on flashbacks, going back and looking at each character had an episode. You go back and look at their lives pre-island, and then after season 3, post-island, and sort of who they were before, who they were after, things that they did. This finale hit everybody sort of in the moments before they get on the plane, before they get on the Oceanic Flight 815. Did you find that it hit as hard, or as it did as much work as sort of these singular character episodes, or that just sort of seeing all of them together before this big moment happened, that I guess they're trying to accomplish different things, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a big picture view, I would say I prefer the episodes that are focused on a single character. In terms of the flashbacks, or flash forwards, or flash sideways, but it works, and you can see what they're doing. They're kind of bringing it for full circle. One of the things that's striking to me that I was thinking about as I watched these episodes again the other day is this is the end of season 1, and we haven't met the others yet, and we
Yep.
haven't met Desmond yet.
Yep.
And just wow, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't start from the beginning. I just jumped back in with this episode. So, but still thinking about it, Rousseau's talking about her daughter. We haven't met her yet, right?
Exactly.
And it's really kind of interesting how they play with that structure. Also, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I think this is the first time we see Ana Lucia. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is a great point that you're bringing up. This is the first time we've seen her. Obviously, in season 2, we dive deep into the story of the Tailies and Ana Lucia, Mr. Echo, and all that crew that we meet for the first time. But this was, one of those talking points, one of those sort of internet rumors that emerged of, Michelle Rodriguez is this known character, or sort of is a known actor. Why would they bring her here and position her as someone on the plane if it wasn't for a purpose coming soon? We see her in the airport bar, and then clearly she becomes a major point of the next season. So yeah, I mean, just sort of this signaling that we know where we are going. You're gonna have to stick with us to find the answers to all these mysteries.
Yeah. I don't know how hung up on this we should get. I just want to put out there to the world, I am an Ana Lucia apologist. I am a defender of Ana Lucia and also of Shannon. So although Shannon's moments at the airport, not a good
Yeah,
look.
this is not a great
Not a
Shannon.
good look for
Not a
Shannon.
great, yeah, not a great Shannon episode. Although you see the connection she has with Walt, with Vincent, the connection she makes with Claire when they're talking about Aaron. So there are some redeeming moments. I think that was what a lot of what this episode is meant to do. This is not obviously the end of the series. What this episode is meant to do is show, look how far these people have come just in the few days from when they got on the plane to where they are now.
Yeah, I think that contrast, and you get that with Locke in particular. They have to carry him onto the plane, and
Yeah.
he drops the little flyer thing that you read just because you're bored. And you can't pick it back up again. And the contrast with Locke on the island, who is, badass, in
Yeah.
charge. And well, as Jack says to Kate towards the end, we're gonna have a Locke problem, which they sort of do
Yeah.
actually, ultimately, but maybe we jump around a little bit, since I mentioned
Yeah.
that. Maybe let's go to that this man of science, man of faith line. You have that confrontation with Locke and Jack.
Yep.
Um, one of the things that's always been really striking to me on this front is that although in the real world, I would probably identify more as a quote unquote man of science, in
Mm-hmm.
the context of this scene, totally with Locke.
Yeah.
Somehow Locke's totally got me, you know. And I don't know, is that the same for you, or thoughts about that?
Yeah, as I watch it many, many times, and now in the third or fourth time that I've seen this episode, I start thinking about not just who's on what side, but what's the context they're using to state their position. And you think about what Locke says. He literally says, the island chose us. It was our destiny. Do you really think this was an accident? To see all that they've seen and come to this point, how can Jack still deny that there's something special about this? That sentence, the island chose us, is really foreshadowing what we'll learn in the last season about, yes,
Mm,
actually, these people were chosen for a reason, to try to play a role, and they're trying to find who the
yeah,
right person is for that role. But you're right. I mean, looking at the evidence, which is maybe more of a man of science thing, I really fall on Locke's camp as he's trying to figure out what is the reason why we're here. It's got to be more than just accident or coincidence.
yeah. But see, the thing is, actually, Locke has a bit of evidence that Jack does not have.
Mm-hmm.
Locke knows that he was confined to a wheelchair before this plane crash happened.
Yep.
Locke has experienced something personally miraculous, and I believe no one else knows that at this point.
I think that's true. I think no one knows it. I've always tried to justify that with, what does Jack, or how does Jack reconcile what he's seeing with his dad, right? I think he mentions in an earlier episode in season 1 that he just must be sleep deprived or dehydrated. But he's seen his father now several times, who, as we know, died in Australia and was being transported back on the plane. He's seeing some things, but it's not just this purely personal, miraculous thing that Locke has.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, Jack's the kind of guy he would just write that off. I've softened a bit on Jack over the years, but he always had a way of rubbing me wrong a little bit.
Yeah,
He's just
I
so
mean,
stubborn.
Jack, not the best lost character. I am very happy to say, or very not emotionally troubled to say, he is not the best lost character.
He functions, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I mean, at the same time, you do grow to care for Jack,
Hmm.
and that scene between him and Sawyer in this episode, where Sawyer tells him that he saw Christian in a bar in Australia and all of that. It was a really powerful scene. Um, I,
I will admit that scene is one of the reasons why I picked this episode. Um, to show in one scene, not just for the acting chops of these guys, but how far Sawyer has come in the X number of days they've been on the island, right? This is not the Sawyer who was out for revenge trying to kill someone in Australia before they got on the plane.
yeah, I mean, but he still sort of is like
Yeah, he
he
can
tells
be.
Walt once we're on the raft, he's like, the only letter I wrote's the man I'm going to kill. And Walt's like, why are you going to kill him? He goes, because so like, but yeah, the growth of Sawyer is great. That there were, let's see, I made a note of a couple other scenes too. I agree with you completely about that one. Oh, and then Sun and Jin. Sun gives Jin the little book to
Yeah.
help him be able to say some English words. And I don't know, man. I love Sun and Jin so much overall in this show.
Yeah.
What about
I,
you?
it, there are so many characters in this show that you either, well, I'll just say there's so many characters, particularly from the beginning, that you just hate from the beginning. I mean, you really have a disdain towards Sawyer. You have a disdain towards Shannon, a disdain towards even Jen, right? He seems controlling and manipulative. But more than any others, I think Sun and Jen are ones that you really come around on, particularly in the growth you see from Jen. You see, I saw pointed out one place that his flashback in this episode, Jen's flashback in this episode, is the most important because it does provide some context of why he is doing everything he can to protect Sun and keep her safe. That he feels like no matter where he goes, Mr. Pike's men are following him and can find him. And to have that interaction in the bathroom there before they get on the plane, that's why he's acting this way. He doesn't want to be that person, but he feels like he has to be. And so I have some issues with how they handled their death later in the series, and sort of take some issue with some of that. But this episode of what they're dealing with emotionally, how they feel like they're being punished, just hits you pretty hard.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We don't want to get too off track in terms of now let's start griping about how they ended their story. But I think we're on the same page there. But um yeah, great stuff. Um the Walt storyline, I don't know, does this work for you? Because there are some indications that this was something that was stemmed from behind the scenes concerns that they had to write Walt off the show because
Yeah.
he was growing up too fast.
You know, I think about that. I think about, obviously we've talked about this before, this uh, no pun intended, expose that came out about the writer's room and Lost and some of the things that Harold Perrineau and some of the other actors were concerned about during the time. And yeah, I hate that there was sort of this Michael Walt story that they felt like that they had to end. The Walt thing is, you sort of paint yourself in a corner when you um, cast someone who's so young, but you're trying to keep things at such a tight time frame in the show, right? So there wasn't much they could do there. I think if there's one thing I wish that could have been explored more in Lost, it would have been Walt, who he is, who he can be, what he can contribute to this island, and what the story was. But yeah, they just had to, by the end of season two, we see him a couple more times over the next four seasons, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually the disappointing thing. Everything that occurs in this set of episodes we're talking about, I
Yeah.
guess I think does work and is effective.
Yep.
And that they're on the raft, and then Mr. Nice Guy or whatever his name is something close to that. Do you remember that guy's name?
Uh, Friendly, Mr. Friendly.
Mr. Friendly, yeah. It is like, we're gonna have to take the boy, and they actually like play some of the kind of triumphant type music and then undercut it and punch you in the gut.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I think that's all really effective. You're like, oh no. And that's kind of where they're leaving us at the end of season one, although then there's the tag with the hatch still. It's at
yeah.
the very end of the episode. Um, so I guess the disappointment with Walt is later, that it really does just kind of fizzle away, because this episode indicates, oh, Walt's really important, right? The others
Yeah.
are coming specifically for Walt, and then it just kind of wafts away, and they return to it in the epilogue where
Hmm.
he's playing Connect Four or whatever, but they just never really bring it home in
Yeah.
terms of Walt's significance, and yeah, I do find that disappointing.
And I will say, I don't remember picking up this the first time that I watched it, but there's so many of these holy crap moments in Lost. Obviously, Friendly and his people on the boat saying that they've come for the boy is one of them. But I completely forgotten about Rousseau when Saeed and Charlie find her and take Aaron back when they're at the fire, thinking that the others are coming, that she says they were whispering that they were coming for the boy. And on my very first time I watched that, I missed what the context of that was. But so that's not one of those holy crap moments when you realize, wait a minute, do they realize that they're not talking about Aaron, that they're talking about the other boy, and that there's nothing they can do except wait and see if these guys survive and if they end up taking Waltz. Just sort of one of those things you missed on the first go, or that I missed on the first go around.
Yeah, it's in there. It's like a little clue, that they actually mean Walt, and
Yeah.
maybe it gets into your subconscious just enough, even if you hadn't thought about it, that you've got the foreboding as you reach that encounter out there on the raft, and things start going sideways. Maybe, I mean, it's very, very well written, all of
Yeah.
that. Again, one thing I found myself thinking, and this is sort of retrospective, you've got the black smoke,
Mm,
and they actually go there, right? And the others have lit a fire with black smoke. I'm not sure what they're burning, but the contrast between that and the other black smoke, the smoke monster,
yeah.
they're not the same thing, right?
They're absolutely not the same thing. And we are led to believe, as I understand it, that yes, the others lit that fire. This was not a trap by Rousseau or a calling card from Rousseau to try to get them to show up or appear. And so, yeah, it's two different things, two different meanings. We get perhaps our most clear sense of the smoke monster's intentions in this episode when it wraps up Locke and is going to take him down a hole before Kate throws the dynamite down there. But boy, that moment of understanding what it can do, what we see it do in later seasons. I just saw this episode of season 5 where we flash back to the French crew and it wraps up one of the guys and rips his arm off, to see what that could have been. And then for Locke to say, let me go. I want this to happen, or I'm okay with this happening. I just remember seeing that the first few times and thinking, man, I really need some answers to what this is. That almost was like the predominant mystery for a couple of seasons of what this thing is and why it exists.
I mean, really all the way until the last season, right?
Yeah.
And then that's probably one thing that some people are a little bit disappointed on,
Yeah.
when it comes down to the explanation of the black smoke monster. I don't know if I'm included in that or not. I'm pretty okay with it. I do think that the final season kind of takes a hard turn into I don't know, almost mysticism or something.
Mm. Hmm.
And I've had to reconcile myself to that. I did not really love that the first time around. But I've come to be okay with that. I found myself thinking, why did they light the fire with the black smoke?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question because you think, okay, it's signaling the others coming. Technically, I guess they came to a part of the group. They didn't come to to a part of the group on the island. They came to the part of the group in the water. But does this mean that we're doing this, signaling that we're going to be encroaching on you somehow, and they did, just not in the way that they thought they were?
Yeah, but I mean, so it's like, is this a psychological tactic? Like we're going to let you know that we're coming
Yeah,
so that you freak out,
yeah,
and getting you to freak out is part of what we want you to do. Yeah, I mean, I guess that does seem very Ben.
yeah.
So that makes sense. I'll buy.
Fear leads to
Uh,
confusion and chaos, and that's the best way for them to, to get what they want.
yeah, a couple other things here. I do want to. You mentioned
Mm.
arts.
Ours,
Um, this is really. I guess I've always thought this was funny, but again, it landed for me quite well this time around. Where
yeah.
he is ranting about he's ranting to Hurley about how um our like heroes, as it were, are a clique, and the other people have rich inner lives and are unique sources of value also like him. And then really very shortly after that you have the moment where he's talking about how careful they need to be with the dynamite, and he blows himself up.
Yeah.
um and it's funny. That's the thing. And it's like the fact that it's more funny than sad
Yeah.
makes Arts's point that he was making. And there's this real moment of meta awareness on the part of the writers here that they're playing with this guy. I mean, he's totally sympathetic. I mean, no problem with Arts,
Yeah.
and although he's kind of ranting about high school kids he teaches, whatever, but that I really like that moment. I wanted to mention that stood out to me again.
I had a little, maybe a slightly different read on that conversation that Arts has with Hurley. We're still, this would have been in spring of 2005, in the very early stages of what we might today call prestige TV or serialized TV, where you had to really be in from the beginning to understand the building blocks that are being put together for this show, and sort of this idea of that Art's saying, well, we all, aren't a part of your merry man of adventurers. Some of us, are human too and want to be included. That just sort of this nod to people saying, well, how am I supposed to know what's going on here if I haven't, watched every minute and analyzed all this and read all the stuff online? And there's just sort of this sense of understanding that, yeah, you kind of have to be part of the clique to be able to watch this
hmm.
show.
No, see, that's good. I think that's just another layer.
Yeah.
There's layers of meta commentary going on here, and it's a cool little scene. Um, so what else we got? We have the numbers. I don't know how much we want to talk about the numbers.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's, the numbers have been analyzed and written about and critiqued, to the fullest extent. I mean, we will get these numbers multiple times every season. We'll get them right until the very end. They continue to be this plague for Hurley. He sees them in his dad builds them the car when they return. When they get off the island, he sees them everywhere. But this was another one of these, just sort of, you have to be having a deep understanding of what we're doing here and what these numbers are. And I just loved how they would draw on these extracurricular things and make their fans go dig out what they mean, Fibonacci
yeah,
sequences and all this stuff, right?
I mean it's kind of great, yeah. But they also write significantly. These are the numbers he won the lottery with,
Yep.
right? So Hurley's freaking out when they see the numbers on the side of the hatch. He tries to get them to not explode the dynamite because the numbers are bad. Um, we ultimately, in the final season, get links between these numbers and the and characters. Oh, here's a question. I meant to look this up. Sorry. Off the top of your head, do you remember what number Kate is?
Ooh, what number is Kate? I do not know.
Me neither. Anyway, it stood out to me when I was rewatching this. At one point, she like hears Hurley mumbling the numbers to himself, and the one that catches her attention is 23. And it made me think, like, man, does that link up? You know,
Ooh,
but
well, that's the seat number that Jack had on the plane when he was talking to Anna Lucia was 23. So we have to we're gonna
so
figure this out.
it refers to multiple people, and it was the amount of money. What Kate says in this scene is that it was the amount of money that the guy who turned her in got in a reward, $23,000.
Yep, that's
So
right.
anyway,
That's right.
this is what loss might do to us. Let's not go further into the weeds.
Let me ask you two things before we completely get to the end here. Number one, does what type of impact does loss, if it does have loss, music have on you? Right, Michael Giacchino just became unbelievably famous for this score to this show. I think I have this right. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that when they're boarding the plane, we see the flashbacks there. That's the first sort of prolonged, what's called the life and death theme that he wrote for the show that we see in Charlie's death. We see in other deaths on the series. Obviously, you talk about sort of this crescendo, the build up for when they launch the raft. Like the music in this show makes me really emotional. I wonder if I'm sort of on an island, quote unquote, there, or if somebody else feels the same way.
Oh no, I mean absolutely. You know, and I would expect everyone to agree. Maybe they haven't thought about it, but at least people who love Lost like we do, the show has motifs, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and in the music, I mean, right? And not all shows are like that, you know, but ultimately these musical themes recur, you know, and they take on a meaning in and of themselves
Mm.
as the series of notes that they are. So, I mean, on a first pass, the music good, you know,
Yeah.
but then beyond that, I think it gets imbued with this significance. And yeah, I think it's really well done. Um,
Yeah, that's a great point. We also get the sort of adventure theme when they're hiking up to the Black Rock. You know, that's sort of a theme, a motif throughout the show, the life and death, the just sort of lost score as they launch the raft. So you're right. They sort of connected these moments to the score that just make it even that you connect it from season to season and moment to moment, makes it more powerful.
yeah, and yet my favorite use of music is in the season 2 premiere, and I could not help but go and watch just that scene. I finished this and was like, well, I got it. Yes, next episode, I got to watch just that scene with the Mama Cass. You
Yep.
know, that this is our introduction to Desmond. You never see his face. You know, he's doing dishes, he's exercising, and all of that. I love that scene. I love Desmond also, but no Desmond in this episode. They blow open the hatch and we end with them looking down, and or we ultimately do kind of like look up at their faces,
Yes.
and that's the end of season 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so as we wrap this one up, I wanted to give you a chance. Do you have a favorite Lost episode?
Um, I would probably pick the Constant.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I love Desmond. I think that's just a great episode of television. Um, so probably that one, but there are a number of episodes that are really really good of this show. Even take
Yeah.
them on their own. Expose is probably, you know, like number 2 on my list.
No, it's not. Stop lying.
It's great, you know. You got the diamond, you got the whole thing,
Deadly
and
spiders.
the
Yeah,
spiders.
exactly what.
Everyone's favorite really is probably that one. Although, I mean, look, to be clear, I defend that too. This was the kind of thing that I end up doing. Like,
I think that was one, you eventually came to learn if you saw a character who was not part of your main cast for 2 episodes, you knew that they were about to die, right? Arzt, Frogert, Nikki and Paolo, once you saw a character and they started having lines like, uh-oh, something's going to happen to them.
Yeah. Arts might have been sort of the beginning of that. I mean,
Yeah.
not for nothing, the first time you're watching this, you maybe are surprised that he
Yeah.
dies and that this is that kind of show.
Yep.
You know.
Exactly.
So yeah, man, really good stuff. I enjoyed going back to this one with you. Anything else you wanted to hit on before we call it a day here?
That's it. I'm curious what I need to prepare for next week.
Oh, right. So I left it as a surprise for our listeners at home. So my first choice for mine Mount Rushmore in competition with Ryan's Mount Rushmore. That's what we're doing here, right? Is season 4, episode 7 of Mad Men, The Suitcase.
I am excited. I told you my story with this. I stopped at some point in season 3 of Mad Men, so I have not have complete context here. We're gonna see if I can catch up or if I decide just to watch this as sort of as is and how I can wrap my head around it. But you're gonna have to guide me through it next time.
I mean, I don't know. Again, it's largely a standalone episode. I would say it's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
Whether you want to watch those previous episodes in season 4. I don't know that you have to. So I was reading, where was it? Slate, I think, put out a list of like the best standalone TV episodes recently. And this was on there.
Oh, great. Okay.
It's basically a standalone episode. I think you could watch it on its own. And to people listening to the podcast, if you've never seen Mad Men and you want to just pop in and watch this one episode, I think that could be an interesting experience. You do you. Regardless, that's what we're going to dig in on next week. I do hope that you'll join us. As always, thanks for listening. Check out the website, tvobsessive.com. You can follow us on social media. You should be able to find TV Obsessive on whatever social media, except for Threads. It's not on Threads, but it is on Instagram. You can find me at Caemeron CC, as long as you spell my name correctly, and Ryan at Cable Box Score on the service formerly known as Twitter. You can find the pod on just about anywhere you listen to podcasts, I think. Please do consider liking, leaving us a good review. Also, we have a YouTube channel if you prefer to check these things out on YouTube, like and subscribe, and so on and so forth. And I think that's the whole spiel there.
That is. I really appreciate the conversation, Caemeron, and go make your own kind of music.
I will. See you next week, Ryan.
All right. Take care.